Welcome to pattern recognition number 12. Now this one will be a pattern that most players should know. I'm not going to say it's a beginner pattern, but it's a pattern that you should become aware of pretty early in your chess career. So we're just going to look at some examples of this, and for those that know this, I'm sure you'll still enjoy this video. But yeah, the Legall mate that we're going to look at, or the Legall trap, was first executed by a French player called Sieur de Legall, who lived from 1702 till 1792. But it was also played a lot by Joseph Henry Blackburn, who was a top player in the latter part of the 19th century, and it was rumored that he used this trap plenty of times while touring and doing simultaneous exhibitions, often blindfold. But yeah, the first time this happened was in 1750, and it's Sieur de Legall with the white pieces, and he's playing Saint Brie, an unknown French player at the time, I guess. And well, this is a trap that you will be able to execute in your games, I'm pretty sure. So the game opened with the king's pawn e4, e5. Legall played knight to f3 and d6 by black. Bishop c4 by white. Normal development, eyeing down the f7 square. After bishop to g4, pinning the knight, we have knight to c3 by white. Here black plays a very poor move, which allows white to set up this trap, the Legall trap, ultimately leading to the Legall mate. So here the move that Legall played was, pause it if you haven't seen it, I'm sure most of you have seen this before, but white played knight takes e5. So the Legall trap is a queen trap, sort of a pseudo sacrifice. White is sacrificing the queen, but it's really only a temporary sacrifice, because if black takes it, he gets mated. So this is how the trap works. You take the queen, but we have mate in 2. Bishop takes f7, and this of course is covered by the knight, so there's only one square for the king, king to e7, and now the knight on c3 jumps into d5. Excellent looking knights here. We give check to the king. This excellent knight covers d7 and the bishop, which does the rest and covers these squares, and of course the knight covers this one. So everything is covered. Checkmate, Czechoslovakia. I think you know soup for you. Come again. So this was the first time that this trap occurred. Now let's have a look at some other examples. In the next example, the white pieces were controlled by Harry Nelson Pillsbury, who was a very famous and strong American player. And this was played in a blindfold simul in Havana in 1900, Havana in Cuba. So Harry had the white pieces, and he pushed e4. If this was a Hollywood movie, he would push the h-pawn, Harry, the h-pawn. Well, that's a different story. e4, e5, knight to c3, the Vienna game, knight to c6, f4. So here we see that this trap is arising through a much different move order. We have f4, d6, fortifying the pawn, but usually we see the knight coming out and the bishop coming out. So a6, a poor move by black, doesn't really influence the center, isn't attacking anything, so a wasted move. And now bishop g4, which is quite often the beginning of black's problems. Now Harry took on e5, and here black can play like this, d takes e5, and his position should be okay, but he played knight takes e5, which is a big problem because it allows white to spring Legall's mate. The The Legall trap is coming up. Harry Nelson Pillsbury took on e5. So now if you take on e5, similar to our first example, if you take on e5 you would have lost a pawn, but here, since there was a knight on e5 by black, white actually wins a piece here. So black only has bad choices, and well, this was actually the better choice because taking the queen allows Legall's mate. With these excellently placed pieces, we give checkmate to the king. To better understand when it doesn't work, we're going to look at some further examples. And here is a game played by some Spanish players in Valladolid in 1974. So Martinez Garcia with white played e4 against Olarte Alvarez. Knight f3, d6. Similar opening moves, knight to c6, bishop to c4. So usually we see these opening moves by white here, and black puts the bishop on g4, as he did in this game. So now the question to you is, can you take on e5? Why and why not? Well, that's what white did in this game. He took on e5. But is it a good idea? Of course not, because here we can take with a knight on e5 and simply protect the bishop. Black has won a piece. So you have to be careful about when you execute this trap. The knight has to arrive on d4 or simply be back on b8. So if black had made a move such as a6, we could spring the trap. So if we go back here, instead of knight c6, if we go with a bad move like a6, bishop c4, bishop g4, now we can take on e5. And we get Legall's mate. The well, sad thing for black is that after knight takes e5, instead of winning a piece with knight takes e5, he actually took the queen and resigned after bishop takes f7. So now we are going to look at a similar example, which was played in 2017 actually, and with the white pieces was a player rated 17-18, and well, similar as always, we have knight c6 by black, bishop to c4, knight g4, same position as last time. And we learned in the last example that knight takes e5 doesn't work yet because of knight takes e5, protecting the bishop. But we can play h3 here. And this will question the bishop. And if black elects to keep the pin with bishop to h5, well, now we can take on e5 because there's no more knight takes e5 protecting the bishop. The bishop has moved to a different square, and here it's simply not protected by the knight. So in this position we can actually play knight takes e5, and well, as in the game, if you take on d1, you're just losing. We already know that. This is Legall's mate. And one very important detail here is if you spring this trap with h3 and black goes bishop h5, take on e5, and black now takes on e5 with a knight. So now the bishop isn't protected, so we can take on h5. But very often when we play this trap, our bishop is under attack on c4. So we need to know one more tactic here. After knight takes c4, white is down a piece, but we can fix it. How can we fix it? We play queen b5 check with a double attack, check on the king, and the knight can't be protected. So after c6, white has won a pawn. White has an extra pawn and better development, so this should be enough to win. We're ready to castle with a good game. In the vast majority of cases, we see this arising with white springing the trap, but there are some rare cases where black is able to execute this trap and get Legall's mate. And here's one example with the black pieces. We have Georgios Alexopoulos. This was played in 1995. The white player seems to be unrated. So we have the Alicant's defense, e4 knight f6 after d3, d5 by black, and white plays rather passively here, allowing white to get this pawn duo in the center. And now we see some substandard moves, a3, and after knight c6, h3. And these moves are more or less just loss of time, and this allows black to sort of play like he was white here, get his pieces out, bishop to g5, and we should already be starting to see what could happen here. And what should white play now? Certainly not what he played in the game. If you play d takes e4, it should be still okay, although you're slightly behind the development. But in the game, white took with a knight on e4, intending to use the pin on the knight, but unfortunately we know by now that the knight can easily move. Knight takes e4. If you take the knight, I take this. I won a pawn. No, I actually won a piece. Won a piece because there was a knight on e4. And if you take on d8, like in the game, bishop takes f2, and Legall's mate appears on the board. The highest rated example that I found of this, it was actually black that managed to get the mate. And it's a game between Viktor Ponomarenko and Oleg Chubakov. And this is played in 2006. White is rated 2234 and black is rated 2159. This time we have c4 by white, e5 by black, d3, knight f6, so sort of a Sicilian with colors reversed. But after e4, we have bishop c5. So already black is just developing his pieces quite normally. Knight c6. And if you're playing, not at the highest level, it's a good idea to, just to get these pieces out before you castle, because you never know. Maybe you will be able to spring this trap. And after f4, black played h6, hoping for what happened in the game, bishop to h4, because now we can go for it, and black went for it, knight takes e4. And I guess at this point white must have realized I beeped up, and okay, if you take, queen takes, you can't do that. So he actually took on d8, and I think it must have been sort of a resignation in a way, realizing he was lost, so he just allowed the mate as a joke. That's what I would guess, because you don't get to be 2159 without realizing you're getting made in 2 moves, especially on move 8. But who knows? Maybe in Soviet Russia they have some vodka from time to time, so you never know. The last example that I have of black, executing this mate is from another game played in Russia in 2010, 2100 rated players. Let's see the game. We have Italian game, bishop c4, knight f6, d3, bishop to c5, knight to c3. c3 is considered a more, it's the more common move, and what you see often at the higher levels these days. But knight c3 is an okay move. d6, white castled, black went bishop to g4, h3, and black sacrificed here with h5. White accepted the sacrifice, but soon found himself in trouble after g3. Probably white can play better here, but white took on f7 with the knight. and this allowed knight takes e4. This actually threatens to play rook h1, which is another pattern that we'll look at later, followed by queen h4 and queen h2 mate. So white actually took the queen, but this allows g takes f2. You have to take with the rook, bishop takes, king to f1, and this is all forced, rook h1. The king has to come to e2, and the knight jumps in, and we have Legall's mate. So not really a pure Legall's trap, but sort of similar. We sacked the queen, and we got Legall's mate. So this is the pattern for this video, Legall's mate and Legall's trap. Hope you did enjoy this one. I'm just going to show you now a funny screenshot from Reddit. And yeah, here as you can see, white is about to spring Legall's trap and deliver the Legall mate. The funny thing about this one is that he said that his opponent initially captured the knight on e5 with a pawn, which, as we know, loses a pawn after queen takes g4. But then he asked for a take back, so he could take his opponent's queen. And white, well, he allowed him to take back, and yeah, the justice was swift. He took the queen, and he got hit with the mate. So yeah, and before I leave you, I will play a clip from my last stream here on YouTube, where I played against a viewer and managed to spring Legall's trap. So yeah, that was pattern recognition number 12. I see you in number 13. And let's try to play something completely different. I'm not an e4 player. Everybody wants to, and I'm not the King's Gambit player, but everybody loves the King's Gambit, so let's just go for it. You know what I'm saying? I think here. Yeah. Okay. I see you. I feel you. Some tactics, not yet. Let's go knight c3 maybe. f6. Ooh, that smells like trouble. I'll castle. I have an idea. Maybe I can take here, right? Isn't this just Legall's mate? Caw-caw! Pattern recognition, yo. Okay, I'm running out of battery, so I'm gonna plug the computer in. Just a moment.